They told us it was a heartbreaking accident that Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the cherished actor, mentor, and voice of an entire era, had simply drowned. That it happened quickly, peacefully, and without blame. But what if that wasn't the full story? What if one of Hollywood's most respected black icons didn't pass by misfortune but by intention? Because that's exactly what his mother, Pamela Warner, believes. And now, she's finally breaking her silence. Ever since Malcolm's sudden and shocking death, the questions haven't stopped. They've only grown louder. Why did it take nearly 3 hours to call 911? Why did someone break into his home just days later, stealing only his files and hard drives? Why was his body reportedly marked with bruises that didn't match a drowning incident? And most disturbing of all, what became of the secret project he was working on? A project, insiders say, that could have rocked the entertainment world. To its core, this wasn't just a beloved actor lost in the water. This was a man who once said, "If something ever happens to me, it wasn't an accident." A man who is gearing up to speak the truth about power, exploitation, and the silence that covers it all. And now he's gone. But his story isn't over, because Pamela Warner isn't backing down. She's going to war with the narrative, armed with what Malcolm left behind, a hidden archive of files that might expose the truth. Behind her son's death, this isn't about conspiracies, it's about questions, it's about silence. And it's about a mother who won't be silenced. No matter how powerful the people are on the other side, what you're about to hear might forever change how the world remembers Malcolm-Jamal Warner. And it all begins with a feeling doubt. It was meant to be a quiet, uneventful evening. Malcolm-Jamal Warner had taken time away at a secluded lakeside retreat just outside Los Angeles, a peaceful spot he often visited to escape the buzz of the industry, clear his head, and work in solitude. At 54, he was healthy, grounded, and according to those closest to him, entering a powerful new chapter in his life. No one imagined the next time they'd hear his name, it would be tied to tragedy. Authorities acted fast. The official report? Simple, accidental drowning. No foul play. Case closed. But his mother, Pamela Warner, his anchor, his fiercest supporter, wasn't convinced. "My son didn't die by accident," she said, unwavering. In a public statement released through her attorney, she demanded answers. "There are too many questions, and I won't stop until I have them." And from the start, her suspicions weren't just fueled by grief, they were backed by facts that simply didn't make sense. To begin with, Malcolm wasn't new to the water. He was a strong, confident swimmer, often seen doing laps at the local pool. Swimming, according to friends, was his therapy, a coping tool he'd used for years. And recently, he had every reason to be focused and under pressure. Because behind the scenes, Malcolm was deep into what he called his most important project, a memoir. A memoir about truth, one that, according to some, was never meant to be published. He had been guiding young talent, producing from behind the curtain, and quietly compiling documents, interviews, audio files, receipts. He was about to blow something wide open. One industry insider said. And then, suddenly, he was gone. The timing, too perfect. The place too isolated. The official story, way too clean. And Pamela, she wasn't just mourning, she was watching, listening, and deep down, she knew something wasn't right. There were warning signs, ones nobody took seriously. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was not a man who panicked easily. But in the final days of his life, something shifted. Friends noticed an edge, a tension that hadn't been there before. He canceled appointments. He stopped replying to messages. And when he did speak, his words were troubling. "If something happens to me, this wasn't an accident." One close friend recalls him saying directly. At the time, they chalked it up to stress. But in hindsight, every sentence now feels like a warning. Another friend revealed a haunting voicemail. "Malcolm left just 48 hours before he died. Yo, something's not right. I'm being watched. I don't know who to trust. If something happens to me, don't believe what they say." He sounded afraid, like the walls were closing in. Some dismissed it as anxiety. Maybe pressure from the memoir, maybe paranoia. But how do you dismiss a man's final warning when it plays out like a script? Just 2 days later, he was found alone, silent, floating. Even his assistant noticed something in his last few messages. "He didn't say goodbye," she noted, "but it felt like goodbye." This wasn't just fear, this was foresight. And for Pamela Warner, those final words became a roadmap to a much darker version of the story. Because if Malcolm knew someone was after him, the next question is, who and why? That night was supposed to be ordinary. Malcolm had checked into a private lakeside retreat. No press, no cameras, no distractions, just peace. He was seen around 8 p.m., talking with the caretaker, taking a calm walk near the water. That would be the last time anyone saw him alive. According to the report. Emergency services weren't contacted until nearly 11 p.m., almost a full 3-hour delay. No reason, no explanation, just silence. When first responders arrived, Malcolm's body was discovered floating near the dock. No visible injuries. Authorities ruled it a standard drowning and moved on, waiting on toxicology results that still haven't been made public. But here's where the cracks begin. No witnesses. No security camera footage, no signs of a struggle, despite the fact that Malcolm was an expert swimmer. The police claimed there was no foul play, but never addressed the delay. They didn't confirm who found him, and most shockingly, they never released the toxicology report. Even worse, Pamela wasn't allowed to see her son's body before the official autopsy. "They locked me out," she said in an interview. "It's like they didn't want me to see the truth." And it wasn't just what was said, it was what wasn't. The report was vague, too brief for a death, this hypophile, too quiet for someone with Malcolm's legacy. Sources close to the case say things felt rushed, like authorities wanted the file closed before anyone could dig deeper. But Pamela was already digging, and the deeper she went, the darker it got. What came next would challenge everything the public had been told. When Pamela Warner was denied access to her son's body before the official autopsy, she didn't wait for permission. She took action, quietly and with determination. She commissioned a private autopsy, handled by a trusted independent team, not the authorities who had already dismissed her suspicions. Pamela needed answers. What she received only raised more red flags. Sources close to the family say the findings were far from routine. Bruising along Malcolm's ribs, upper arms, and neck, microfractures that didn't line up with a simple drowning. Subtle signs of restraint, not panic, not accident, but a potential struggle. "He didn't just fall in," said a close friend. "He may have been held down." Yet none of this appeared in the official autopsy. That key detail, the bruising pattern, was either missed or deliberately left out. When Pamela's legal team reached out for answers, they were met with silence. No updates, no toxicology, no willingness to revisit the case. That's when Pamela realized this was no longer just about mourning her son. This was about uncovering the truth. Those who know her describe Pamela Warner as soft-spoken but unstoppable. The moment she saw the marks on Malcolm's body, her grief transformed into resolve. "Someone is hiding something," said a family insider. And now that she's seen the evidence, she won't back down. She had been warned. Weeks before his death, Malcolm reportedly told her, "If anything happens to me, open the files. Don't let them silence me." Pamela hadn't opened them yet, but she was about to. Just 72 hours after Malcolm's death, someone broke into his LA apartment. But this wasn't a burglary. Nothing of material value was stolen. Not the TV, not luxury items, not even the collectibles he valued most. What disappeared? Hard drives, journals, encrypted data, voice recorders, and perhaps most disturbingly, the fireproof box where Malcolm stored sensitive documents gone without a trace. Even the building's security footage had been wiped. Not glitched, not tampered, erased. They knew exactly what they were after, a friend said, and exactly what not to touch. The project at the center of it all, it had a name. Behind the curtain, few knew what it really was. Some called it a memoir, others a docu-series. What it really seemed to be was both. A full-blown exposé about the entertainment industry's most closely guarded secrets. Abuse, coercion, systemic cover-ups. Allegedly, the project featured victim testimonies, leaked documents, and Malcolm's own experiences, stories he had never made public. This wasn't about reclaiming fame, said someone close to the project. This was about telling the truth. For himself, for others, he'd been working on it in secret for more than 2 years, with plans to release Phase 1 by the end of 2025. Now, it's gone. Not leaked, not delayed, vanished. This wasn't a robbery, it was a targeted wipeout. For years, Malcolm had remained quiet during the Cosby Show scandal. While others spoke, he kept his distance, careful, respectful, private. But in late 2024, something shifted. In a little-noticed interview, he said something that now reads like a warning. "What people know is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. And I'm not afraid anymore." That wasn't about one man. It was about the system. According to sources, Behind the Curtain didn't just focus on new revelations, it re-examined old ones. Malcolm had reportedly connected with several former child actors and crew from the 80s and 90s, many of whom had similar experiences: silence, pressure, trauma swept under the rug. And it didn't stop there. He had agreed to speak at a private summit, an off-the-record gathering of whistleblowers and survivors within the entertainment world. No cameras, no press, just names. Big names. One woman was reportedly preparing to go public with allegations tied to a long-buried abuse ring. That summit, quietly canceled just days after Malcolm's death. No explanation. Just gone. Then came the storage unit breach. Pamela discovered Malcolm's off-site storage space had been accessed. The lock had been replaced. Several storage bins were missing. Surveillance had failed, not by accident, but conveniently. And those Malcolm had recently been in touch with, soothingly, una bailable. Phones disconnected. Silence. He was about to go public, said a journalist close to him, and not just with familiar names, with names no one would believe. Cosby may have been part of it, but this ran deeper. Malcolm wasn't just digging into shadows, he was preparing to shine a spotlight on them. And in Hollywood, where secrets are power, that kind of truth is dangerous. Pamela Warner is no longer grieving in private. She's leading a quiet revolution, As law enforcement went cold and studios looked the other way, Pamela began her own investigation. She built a team of experts, former federal agents, digital forensics specialists, independent medical professionals, people who answer to no one in the industry. And she unlocked what Malcolm had given her months earlier, a sealed digital archive, encrypted, hidden, with one message. Don't open this unless something happens, and if it does, tell the truth, no matter who tries to stop you. The archive, according to sources close to the family, contains hours of audio, interviews, scanned legal files, personal statements, and even a rough cut of Behind the Curtain. Pamela hasn't made its contents public, not yet, but those who've seen pieces say it's explosive. It could take down reputations, entire companies, said one insider. But Pamela isn't chasing headlines, she's chasing the truth. Quietly, she's contacting Malcolm's allies, trusted journalists, former collaborators, even hesitant castmates. Some are afraid, some are offering support. A few have vowed to testify. She's not mourning, a family friend said. She's fighting. She knows Malcolm didn't just die, he was erased. Pamela's resolve is unshakable. She waited, she watched, and now, she's ready. Because if Hollywood won't defend her son's legacy, she will. They silenced him. But they underestimated the woman who raised him. Hollywood tends to follow a familiar script when a star passes. Tribute videos, award show, shout-outs, emotional, cast reunions, and heartfelt interviews. But after Malcolm-Jamal Warner's sudden death, there was nothing. No special coverage, no dedication episodes, no touching segments or retrospectives, just silence. Even the cast of The Cosby Show, many of whom once called Malcolm their little brother, haven't said a word. No tweets, no condolences, no public appearances. According to multiple insiders, it wasn't their decision. Sources claim cast members were urged to stay quiet. Some received formal legal advice. Others got hushed phone calls, but the message the same: stay out of it. One actor allegedly backed out of an interview just days before going public, telling a close friend, "I can't afford the risk. I have a family." And it's not just actors. Major TV networks, producers, and studios who worked with Malcolm during his decades-long career have kept their distance. No public acknowledgments, no press statements. Even shows where Malcolm had behind-the-scenes involvement have erased his name from promotional material. Why the blackout? What are they hiding? Because while Hollywood stays silent, the public is demanding answers. Hashtags like #JusticeForMalcolm and #ProtectPamelaWarner have gone viral across TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Petitions are gaining traction, demanding Malcolm's toxicology report be released and calling for a full federal investigation. Meanwhile, podcasts are dissecting his final weeks. Reddit users are building timelines. Independent journalists are releasing asking the questions mainstream media refuses to touch. And for every celebrity silenced, 10 more voices rise from the crowd. Because fans didn't just watch Malcolm grow up, they grew up with him, and they're not backing down. The louder Hollywood's silence grows, the clearer it becomes. Something's being buried, and the world wants the truth.